Good morning. This program highlights Texas tough plants, plants that grow well in the Galveston County, plants that we grew up with, have been passed down from family and friends by cuttings, seeds, and by division. This presentation is an accumulation of years of information contributed by our Galveston County Horticultural Agent Dr. Johnson and Master Gardeners Sandra Duvall and Herman Aller. I have added some my understandings of these plants and their needs, and I am honored to present this program. Anyone who thinks that gardening begins in the spring and ends in the fall is missing the best part of the whole year. For the gardening begins in January with a dream. This quote is by Josephine Nuzzi, author of The Country Garden. First, we observe our growing conditions. Is your location or site selection shaded by a fence, a porch, an understory of shrubs, or is it shaded by trees that allow dappled sun or light shade? How many hours of sun does your location get? When you go out to your site in the morning, is it shaded by your neighbor's trees? Count the hours of direct sun to your area. Other conditions you want to observe are different heights, like low or raised areas. How long does the rain penetrate your area? Does it run off after a rain, or does it pool in an area? All these factors need consideration to choose the right plant for the right area. Understanding your space is most important in selecting a plant. Understanding the sun and shade patterns of our garden or space is only part of the equation. Translating the needs of the plant requirements is another part of the equation. Full sun is pretty easy for most of us to grasp, but it comes a little cloudier when determining the levels of shade. It's about varying degrees of relief from sun. Plant tags will use terms like these on this slide. The first word describing the light requirements on a plant tag would be its preferred location. For example, the tag might read full sun to part shade. This means the plant will grow best in full sun, but will tolerate some shade. Another problem I have found with sun requirements: full sun in another state is not the same as full sun in Texas. Sometimes knowing the plant's native climate can help you determine if you have the right place for the right plant. Knowing the conditions of your soil and landscape is important in understanding how those conditions translate into the plant's needs and how it can help you choose the right plant for the right area as well. There are three main types of soil: sand, silt, and clay. The best soil for most plants is to ensure optimum growth is a rich sandy loam. The soil is an even mixture of all three main types of soil. A loam soil contains a nice balance of silt, sand, and clay along with humus. In most cases, Galveston County has clay or gumbo, and most plants will want amended soil. Low spots could be rain gardens. You would use plants that require moist or medium watering needs. Sometimes it's easier and more satisfying to utilize plants that are best for existing landscapes. In areas that prevent you from digging in, go up, bring your soils in, and layer them on top. I like cheap bags of topsoil because they are sandy. I add compost and humus. I avoid peat-based bags of soil for the landscape. New plantings should be watered deeply for 2 weeks to get them established. Watering deeply ensures the roots grow deeper, anchoring the plants, and can help them protect them in times of drought, because the soil surface will dry out much quicker than the ground below where it's cooler. And always remember, watering needs of container plants can be very different than landscape plants. Garden is a welcome space in our summers. Sometimes we can tell plants prefer shade by observing their leaves. Shade-loving plants often have larger, thinner leaves. Garden dreams. This could be the end result of what you're dreaming about. All the plants we love crowding out all the weeds, all healthy and happy. Real goals, no weeds. Do you have a low spot in your yard where rain accumulates and dollar weeds grow? You can turn that ugly spot into a useful, beautiful area by planting selections that prefer wet to medium soils. Native prairie plants can help conserve water with long roots to guide the runoff into our water table. After you have assessed the conditions of your yard and made some decisions about your future site location, let's see if there are some Texas Tuff plants that will check all those boxes. Many of the following blooming plants attract pollinators, butterflies, and hummers, as long as the flowers produce nectar and pollen. Hummingbirds see red wavelengths of light particularly well. Bees, both native and European honey bees, see blue, ultraviolet, and yellow wavelengths. Butterflies see a wider range of colors, including the red, orange, yellow wavelengths and blue purples. The best practice to keep the bees, butterflies, and hummers in our gardens is to plan to have something blooming throughout the all seasons. And don't forget those seeds and berries that feed our songbirds. Loquat, a moderate sized tree reaching 20 to 30 feet, a rounded crown, short trunk, and large tropical looking evergreen leaves. The blooms will appear in late fall to early winter and must mature its fruit during the winter months. The blooms cannot survive temperatures below 27 degrees, making Japanese plum tough enough for our area. 2017, Carba Park had temperatures to 28 degrees for 4 days. They can adapt to many different soils, and there's a variety. Genoa loquat, a man in Brazoria County, grafts this loquat. It's big. It's really big. Crape myrtle. Work has been done in breeding the original crape myrtle, Lagerstroemia indica, with Japanese crape myrtle, Lagerstroemia foriae, which features red, flaky bark. Most, oops, most, most new varieties that are on the market today are a result of this breeding program. Crepe myrtles can be grown as single or multi-trunk specimens, maturing with smooth bark, which exfoliates to expose the various colors and undertones underneath. The canopy is covered in spring to early summer with flower clusters. This time-tested superstar was introduced to the nursery trade by a Texas nurseryman in 1965, making Basham Party Pink the granddaddy of Texas hybrid crepe myrtles. So throughout the program, you'll see this logo, Texas Superstar. It means that the plant that I'm highlighting is a Texas Superstar. Texas Mountain Laurel, a small tree or large shrub native to Texas, reaching heights of up to 15 feet and comparable in diameter, grows very slow. If grown as a shrub, it will be an informal shape or allow it to take a tree shape with a single trunk. Flowers appear early spring. They smell like grape Kool-Aid and have a felt-like texture. The fruit is 2 inches long. It's a bean pod that is poisonous to livestock. Other names are mescal bean, mescal or mescal. Bottlebrush. This variety of tree reaches 15 feet tall. Most bottlebrush varieties bloom over a long season in shades of red. typically March through July. One exception is the Castelman Siberi, which has a light yellow flower. There are weeping and dwarf varieties. Bottlebrush plants need protection from cold north winds. They are rated for our zone, but I suggest growing them in a protected area like the south side of your home. The freeze in 2017 damaged and eventually killed bottlebrush in my neighborhood. Golden rain tree. This is a medium landscape tree, quickly growing to 40 feet tall, so it's a good choice for fast shade. It's heat tolerant and adapts to our soils. Early spring brings the leaves that are pinkish in color, and then in summer, yellow blooms appear. The seed litter can be unattractive on sidewalks and driveways. Gardeners complain about it receding when planted in the wrong area, and bees are attracted to this too. Careful considerations should be made when deciding the right place for this tree. Orchid tree. It reaches 20 feet tall and wide. It has a low canopy with a clearance of 3 feet from the ground and is suitable for planting under power lines. It grows at a fast rate and under ideal I lost my spot. It grows at a fast rate and under ideal conditions can be expected to live 30 years. Performs best in full sun to partial shade. It is white and purple blooms appear in spring. It is very adaptable to both dry and moist conditions, but will not tolerate any standing water. It is not particular as a soil type, but prefers acidic soils. It is winter hardy in our area, but farther north it needs to be planted in a protected south-facing location and may still lose some limbs in severe winters. It is an excellent choice for our yards, but it is also a good selection for planting in containers. Vitex. It's a deciduous large shrub or small tree reaching 10 to 15 feet tall and wide. Spikes of lavender flowers blooming heavily in the early summer and then sporadically through fall. Vitex is heat, drought, and pest tolerant. Texas lilac is a group designation for several recommended cultivars. Montrose purple, LeCompte, and Shoal Creek, all of which are considered Texas superstars. Full sun is preferred, but will tolerate partial sun. The neighborhoods that I drive through frequently have them, and I notice their varieties bloom May and then again in September. American Beautyberry is a native to southern United States. It is small, greenish white flowers in early summer, but they are followed by clusters of purple berries, clinging in the branches in late summer. American Beautyberry is best suited to semi-shaded sites with some moisture. Most often will grow to 3 to 5 feet tall and usually just as wide, but it can reach 9 feet tall in favorable conditions and moisture conditions. A good spot is the east side of your home or building. It can tolerate full sun if given plenty of water and can tolerate some drought, like a rain garden. Otherwise, it is tolerant of various soils. It has long arching branches, and if they are pruned by half in the winter, it will become more compact. This white beautyberry is not native to the United States. Camellia. This is an old camellia. Camellia japonica blooms in spring, but this Camellia Sasanqua, I practiced it, forgot. Sasanqua is beautiful fall blooming evergreen shrub that prefers consistently moist, slightly acidic, well draining, compost rich soil. They also prefer partial shade, much like azaleas. I see them performing best under high shade trees. Camellias often grow to 6 feet but can reach 12 to 14 feet. It grows slowly but can live to 100 years old. This variety bears an abundance of fragrant 3 to 4 inch open blooms with yellow centers in December. There are numerous cultivars with many colors available, including dwarf forms. As the flowers get older, their petals will litter all around them. The white varieties look like snow around the ground. Yellow bells or Esperanza, a spectacular heat-tolerant Texas native with striking masses of golden yellow trumpet-shaped flowers, highly pest-resistant, blooms form early summer till frost, grows to a maximum height of 4 to 6 feet, spreading 2 to 3 feet wide, in well-drained soil. Prefers full sun. It is wonderful in containers to accent entry and patios, also in mass plantings. Golden dewdrop. It is a hardy plant that can be a small bush, a hedge, or even a small tree with an umbrella-like covering ranging 10 to 12 feet tall and about 6 to 10 feet wide. Native to North and South America, the sky blue flowers along the arching branches appear spring and fall. They are followed by berries that feed birds, poisonous to kids and pets, but birds, it's not poisonous to birds. I've heard somebody try to say that it was poisonous to birds too, but it's not. There's a cultivar called Gold Edge, which is smaller and has gold leaves and rarely sets any fruit or flowers. It's like a dwarf variety. Duranas can tolerate sun or shade. Obviously, the blooming duranas perform best in more light, but the variegated ones, such as the Gold Edge, look best in partial shade. Chinese fringe. This is an evergreen shrub or can be pruned to a tree form and can grow up to 15 feet tall and wide. Very hardy and easy to maintain. Prune it in spring after it blooms in February. It is usually the first thing I see bloom at the end of winter. Flowers are like tassels or fringe, hence the common name. There are dwarf and ground cover varieties. And here's a picture of the flower. And next, here it is in its tree form. Firecracker bush. Soft, fine textured, medium green leaves with tubular shaped flowers. Firecracker plant grows in a wild wispy form with cascading red blooms or yellow blooms or salmon. There are moderate to fast growing, 3 to 5 feet tall and wide, preferring full to part sun, but will grow in part shade with less flowers. These salt tolerant shrubs need protection from cold winds and weather. Sometimes it doesn't come back after a hard frost. Flowering takes place on and off all year during the warm months. Hummingbird bush. I always get the firecracker bush and the hummingbird bush mixed up. So I put them together. So few plants really thrive in our Texas heat from July to September, but Hamelia patens seems to thrive on it. Sometimes called the Mexican firebush, I think that's where my confusion starts, but mostly the hummingbird bush because they are attracted to the tubular red flowers like the other one. The blooms from July, it blooms from July to September. Hamelia is very drought tolerant and thrives in any soil if well drained. They prefer full sun or partially shaded locations are preferable to shady ones, which will result in a smaller growth and less blooms. This lush green foliage makes a nice hedge. Bridal wreath, a large, old-fashioned, non-native shrub with arching fountain-like stems. They can reach 8 feet tall and spreading 7 to 10 feet. Very showy there it is. Very showy clusters of a quarter-inch white flowers appear along the branches in early spring. They last for 2 weeks. I've been I have seen them planted in masses at the back of a shrub border under high shade or of a tree, 4 to 6 hours a day of sun. Prefers average soil that is moist and well drained soil, will tolerate an occasional drought, full sun to part shade, prune as needed immediately after flowering, much like azaleas. Barbados cherry, a Texas native, is a dense, twiggy, multi-stemmed, medium-sized evergreen shrub. This shrub has rapid growth, great heat tolerance, drought tolerance, and tolerates some salt in the soil. Shear to shape for a low mounting shrub or allow for it to grow into an upright tall shrub. Given the right conditions, the shrub can get 9 feet tall, or it can be kept to 2 or 3 or 4 feet tall and wide. That's my favorite. The light pink flowers appear in spurts from April through October. White-tailed deer sometimes eat the leaves. Birds, raccoons, and coyotes feed on the fruit. The fruit is edible to humans too. Angel trumpet. In our area during warmer winters, they can get 6 to 15 feet, depending on their location and protection from north winds. They can adapt well to the containers where the plants remain much more manageable size. There is a diversity among Brumansia flowers with individual blooms ranging in 4 to 24 inches long. Depending on the species cultivar, the they come in shades of white, yellow, gold, orange, peach, and pink. There are singles, doubles, triples, and quadruples, and a few shredded forms too. I haven't seen those. Some cultivars bloom throughout the growing season. Others grow in flushes every 6 to 8 weeks, while some only produce flowers in cool weather. They are easy to grow, love the sun. Once established, they would only need water in times of drought. I never water mine. Plumbago. Plumbagos are tender perennials with profuse blue flowers, which thrives in the hot Texas summer. Disease, pest, and deer resistance. Prefers full sun to partial sun. Stays 3 to 4 feet tall and spreads 4 to 5 feet wide. The blooms, it blooms May till frost. Plumbago can be a bit rambling. Pruning can manage the shape and encourage more blooms. Rose swamp or swamp mallow. Low maintenance perennial with large fuchsia red, rose pink, and white swirled, and a creamy white flowered one too. It's an improved sterile hybrid, consistent bloomer in the summer till frost. A very refined hibiscus muscatus, tolerates alkaline soils. A sport, this is a flare, peppermint flare. It's a sport of the flare. Has the same superior traits as the original, but the flowers are white and pink with small pink veins. The flare hibiscus blooms July to September, will grow 4 feet tall and wide, full sun with plenty of water. medium to wet water needs. Otherwise, some afternoon or evening shade can be helpful. They like water. The Rose of Sharon is a deciduous upright shrub or a small tree with multiple trunks reaching 8 to 12 feet and occasionally spreading 6 to 10 feet. The branches grow upright. The leaves emerge late in the spring. Leaves are medium to dark green in the summer with no fall color. The trumpet-shaped flowers are 2 to 4 inches across in colors of white, pink, red, violet, purple, and recently I've seen blue. They, the blooms stay open for one day and close at night. Texas Tuff Roses. I'm going to highlight a few roses in here in the next slides, but there are some great roses for Texas. AgriLife outlines them as earth kind roses. Ginger, Dr. Johnson's administrative assistant, will include a handout, or it's not a handout anymore, in your copy of today's presentation in the email. Or please use an internet search to find earth kind roses. Texas Rock Rose, originating in the dry, rocky woods and riverbanks of Texas. So of course it is drought tolerant and not too picky about soil, or it will also tolerate irrigated areas. It ranges from 1 to 4 feet tall and about 3 feet wide. The flowers are a miniature rose that open in the morning and close by early afternoon, like most hibiscus. This is in the hibiscus family, I believe. No, it's not. Anyways, it blooms spring through fall, grows in our sun to part shade, protect the plants with a layer of mulch in the winter. Belinda's Dream. This is my favorite. It was developed at Texas A&M. It is a cross between Tiffany and Jersey Beauty. This fast-growing shrub is an upright and sturdy with heat and disease resistance. It tolerates many soil conditions that are well draining. A classic hybrid tea style rose that has a rich fragrance. Perfect for a center of a flower bed, makes excellent cut flowers. Blooms occur all through the warm months. With full sun, it can reach 5 feet tall. Plant it in fall and spring and prune near Valentine's Day. Matubulus rose. Old rose from China, introduced in 1894. Matubulus because the blooms mutate in color, beginning with yellow, changing to pink, and finally to crimson. It is also known as the butterfly rose because its blossoms look like brightly colored butterflies. A large, attractive shrub, easily grown and heat tolerant, making it well suited for growing in the South. Be sure to give it plenty of room. It can grow to be 8 to 10 feet tall. Okay, we were going to have to mention the knockout rose. Those roses are even blooming right now. The knockout rose produces fluorescent cherry red blossoms that begin in spring and continue to provide color until the first frost. Prefers full sun to very light shade. It can reach 3 to 5 feet, but looks and performs much better if pruned near Valentine's Day to a 3 to 4 foot shrub. It grows fine in containers. It's tolerant of most soils as long as they are well drained. This plant blooms whenever temperatures permit. It's blooming right now. Perennial beds. My good friend Stacy Phillips shared this photo with me. This is a picture of one of her perennial beds. Verbena. The search is endless for a plant that blooms consistently, tolerates our heat, and comes back year after year. The original blue Princess Verbena was brought back from sorry about that. Was brought back for, to brought back to the United States from Greg Grant from the United Kingdom, working with other agrilife extension research agents, horticulture agents. He made selections from the English stock that were adapted to our hot Texas conditions. This plant performs best in full sun, forming a rounded trailing habit 1 feet tall and 3 feet wide. It starts blooming early spring and continues through late fall. Shear between bloom cycles to promote rebloom. After the first abundant bloom, when the plant appears to be shutting down, perform a light pruning, which will produce another flush of flowers, kind of like mums. It's a Texas superstar. Henry Dulberg. This is a low maintenance, heat tolerant native perennial with masses of showy blue flowers. In full sun, it can reach 3 feet tall and 3 feet wide. The spikes of showy blue flowers from spring or until frost. It's a Texas native plant found by Greg Grant in a small central Texas cemetery. Autumn sage, Salvia gregii. Native salvia to southwestern Texas and Mexico. Autumn sage is really misnamed because it blooms spring through fall. While most perennial salvias are herbaceous perennials freezing to the ground each winter and returning from the roots, autumn sage is partly evergreen and semi-woody. Growing to about 3 feet tall, cut it back 1 or 2 times a year and it will keep compact and flowering. Autumn sage needs full sun and excellent draining to do best and is very drought tolerant. Flowers, it comes in flower colors of white, pink, rose, purple, and orange. Mystic blue spires. It is a compact form hybrid of another popular salvia called indigo spires. That one gets really big. It produces masses of true blue flowers that mix nicely with other annuals and perennials to heights of 18 to 30 inches. It's much smaller than indigo spires. It is heat and humidity tolerant and is not bothered by pests or diseases. Adapts to most soils, but needs good draining. Mealy Cup Sage, a South and Central Texas native with spikes of blue flowers that bloom all summer, growing about 3 feet tall and wide. Like many salvias, it looks best if cut back once or twice during the summer. It is fast growing and will flower in first year in less than 4 months from seed. It is a short-lived perennial during cold winters. Black and blue salvia. Love black and blue salvia. A tender perennial, needs protection from cold north winds, full sun, and medium water to reach 2 to 5 feet tall and wide. Blooms from July to frost, low maintenance. You can leave this alone and be happy. But if you like to cut, reduce the bush in late spring to encourage more blooms. If grown in too much shade, plants tend to elongate and fall over. A good place for it, rain garden. Lantana. New Gold cultivar is a dwarf growing to 2 feet tall and 4 feet wide. It is drought tolerant, heat loving, low maintenance perennial, and golden yellow flowers. The lavender, purple and white flowers has a trailing habit. Trailing cultivars grow 1 to 1 feet tall and 4 feet wide. Both are outstanding, thriving in full sun, blooming from spring to frost. Bat-faced Cuphea. The common name, bat-faced Cuphea, comes from the resemblance of the ends of the flower to a tiny bat face. It's little bitty. They have a rounded 2 to 3 feet bushy habit, and the foliage will remain fresh all season if watered sufficiently. Bat-faced Cuphea begins blooming in late spring and continues until frost. It hasn't performed well for me in a pot. It's one of those plants, if you forget to water it and then water it, it kind of goes into shock. At least that's what happens to me. It's a North American native. Black-eyed Susan. Rebecca Goldstrom blooms June to October, reaching 18 to 24 inches tall. It's reliable, tough, and tolerates both drought and medium water needs. Medium water conditions and adapts to many soil types. This Rebecca is a long-lived perennial, coming back year after year. Rebecca hirta is a short-lived perennial or biennial, which typically completes its cycle in 2 years. There is a common name brown-eyed Susan. Rebecca triloba resembles the black-eyed Susan so closely that common names are often interchanged. It is an annual. It's native to North America and appears a bit weedier. If you're making a choice for black-eyed Susans, stick with the Goldstrom, the Rebecca fulgida. Copper Canyon Daisy, a Texas native, has a mounding and trailing habit reaching 4 feet tall and wide. Great heat tolerant deciduous perennial with low water requirements. In winter, this plant can look dead. It will rest until spring. It has a distinct lemon aroma with camphor undertones when brushed. Like its cousin, Texas tarragon, or Mexican marigold, it produces bright yellow flowers in late fall. Plant it in light, well-drained soil where it has at least 4 hours of direct sun. Prune down to about 4 inches in late fall after the blooms begin to fade. There are many materials that can assist a climber. Fences, trellises, arbor poles, wire, even trees, tomato cages, and even brick walls. Vines with tendrils are good climbers. Some vines need training. Coral vine. Sprays of bright pink flowers with deeper pink centers are easily grown in average to medium well-drained soils in full sun. This vine thrives in our hot summers, can be drought tolerant once established, but appreciates consistent moisture during the growing season. This fast growing vine has tendrils, can be a good ground cover, a good cover for arbors and fences. During our warmer winters, it may remain evergreen or it can die back during times of frost, but will return in spring. The blooms, it blooms late summer to fall. Coarse, wavy edged, arrowhead shaped 4-inch long green leaves. It is a North American native. Bougainvillea. This thorny vine grows anywhere from 3 to 4 feet tall, scrambling over other plants. They need training. They do not have tendrils. The plant blooms on and off all year. The flowers are the tiny white inside the bracts, the color bracts. The white is the actual flower. They are evergreen where rainfall occurs all year, or deciduous if there is a dry season. They can be trained to grow into a tree shape. They are drought tolerant, but they prefer adequate water all year. Best practice allow the soil to dry between waterings. Although this cold hardy plant, you may experience some leaf drop if the cold winter wind reaches it. It will flush out again when the warm weather persists. Star jasmine. It is a bit slow to start and requires training. It grows faster after the first year. Star jasmine has small, glossy green leaves that are evergreen in warm climates. The fragrant white flowers appear in April through June. Star jasmine, aka Confederate jasmine, is a versatile plant. It can be known as a ground cover to reach 1 to 2 feet tall and spread 4 to 5 feet wide, or it can be used as a strong vine when trained on a support and can reach 20 feet tall or 20 feet. It will not attach to masonry without additional support because it does not have tendrils. Hyacinth bean. This is a tender perennial that can be winter hardy in our area during mild winters. It needs sturdy support to grow due to the weight of the vine in its maturity. It's easily grown from seed in average medium well-drained soils in full sun. It blooms purple, white, and pink June till frost. Full sun to part shade reaching a height of 10 to 20 feet. It spreads 3 to 6 feet wide with medium water needs. Trumpet vine, a deciduous native vine, fast growing. A cultivar Madame Galen is a less invasive hybrid. It produces seed pods, It blooms in summer and fall. It can reach heights of 32 feet and can spread 4 feet in full sun with low water needs. This is a self-climber. It attaches itself. The vines can become woody. Butterfly vine. The clusters of yellow flowers on a butterfly vine shine spring through fall, but it's the seed pods that give the plant its name. During summer, chartreuse wings unfold on these seed pods to look like butterflies. It can die back during our cold winters and resprout in spring. This evergreen vine can reach 15 to 20 feet tall and wide and will easily train itself to a trellis or a fence. If left unsupported, this plant will twine on itself to produce a mounding shrub or even a ground cover. With moderate water needs, it can be drought tolerant but looks much better with regular watering through the day. It prefers sun to partial shade. Bulbs. All right. So I'm going to take a moment to remind about our upcoming sale, March 13th. We will be offering bulbs. You can, if you use galvestonmg.org, it will take you to our homepage, and there you can find our upcoming plant sales by clicking on plant sale. And also you will find the upcoming educational seminars. We have the schedule up from February and March. And also don't forget to click on our beautiful award-winning newsletter. There's a lot of great information in our newsletters. And when you need research-based horticultural information, click on Aggie horticulture. Spider lilies or surprise lilies. Drought is the reason bulbs evolved to store water and conserve energy. Spring and fall bulbs like jonquils, narcissus, oxblood lilies, rain lilies, and spider lilies need to dry out during the summer and are harmed by too much water. The moisture triggers root growth, then shoot growth. The difference between our spring bulbs and fall bulbs is that the bloom in fall the bloom appears before the foliage, and in spring bloom the bulb blooms after it appears. Each spring the foliage appears, ripens, and then dies down with the heat of summer. In September, usually after a soaking rain, clusters of stems may reach 18 to 24 inches tall with red, pink, white, or even yellow flowers. They are very easily grown. The red form, Lycoris radiata, is more common. Rain lilies are commonly called because they often bloom after it rains. Evergreen perennials native to southern United States, the white rain lily tolerates heat and clay soils best. Galveston County. Rain lilies form clumps about 12 inches tall and wide. The plant's foliage resemble sedge or monkey grass. In the early fall, it is covered with large white flowers or pink or yellow. The heat-stressed plants recovered underground bulbs when water is applied or temperatures cool off. They're 1 feet tall. They bloom in the summer. And the perennials. Crinums. Otherwise known as swamp lilies or cemetery lilies, and even spider lilies, I've heard them called. They can be found growing near shorelines or of ponds, brackish bayous, and inlets to the Dickinson Bayou. They are large bulbs, really large bulbs. True bulbs, true pass-along plants. Give them 4 feet of space and they will fill it up. A 3 to 4 inch perennial bulb in the Amaryllis family. It is native to wetlands, swamps, marshes, and along the Texas Gulf Coast. Native to southern United States. These are the plants that you either love them or hate them. Shell ginger. Alpinias grow 8 to 10 feet tall and wide. It blooms on the previous year's canes. This beautiful foliage is aromatic. Shell ginger requires full sun to part shade and adequate moisture. Variegated shell ginger is grown mostly for its foliage and is most popular variegated ginger. A dwarf version is also available. Here's the variegated one. Butterfly or African iris. Evergreen to semi-evergreen, 2 to 3 feet tall, shrub-like mound of narrow, sword-like leaves from a fleshy rhizome. It is cold hardy for our zone 9, but as we know, our sporadic temperatures can affect them in colder winter years. 25 they can persist as long as it's over 25 degrees. There we go. Full sun to partial shade. Heat and moderately drought salt tolerant as well. adapts to different soils. Perennial blooming in June and July. The Dietes iridioides, there we go, is the white butterfly iris. Dietes by color is slightly larger with a cream yellow to pale yellow flowers. There is also a Dietes vigata that makes large grassy clumps with many 3-inch pale yellow flowers with colored markings of yellow and violet. They may be considered a little maintenance free because when the individual leaves die, they must be clipped off in order to maintain neatness rather than be pulled. Iris nata. I found people call this butterfly iris too. It is not. It's not for Africa. It's a hybrid from 1950, a California plantsman of Oakhurst Gardens. It forms an evergreen patch comprised of 1 to 2 feet tall evergreen leaves spread slowly by underground rhizomes. Their branched flower stalks start blooming in late March with ruffled white flowers, highlighted by a pale lavender center. This hybrid is cold hardy to 15 degrees more than African iris. Caladium. Most varieties reach 12 to 15 inches tall. They like bright, indirect sun. Plant tubers when the soil is 70 degrees. The soil, not the temperature. In our area, that puts it around March or April. Last year in our county, March 12th had soil temps of 72 degrees. Right on time for our sale that includes caladiums, March 12th. It is not recommended to save and store the caladium bulbs. Most gardeners will tell you the next year's bulb does not produce as well, so most recommendations are to buy new tubers. Lily of the Nile. Native to Africa, they are a tender evergreen perennial. African lilies grow foliage 1 to 2 feet tall, but the blue, white, or pink flowers rise above to a 3 feet generally. In our area, they bloom May through July. We have found that agapanthus bloom best when crowded, but bloom poorly when overly crowded, and will bloom poorly after division too, or transplanting. Make sure the soil is well drained, water well until established, add mulch near plant to maintain soil temperature and moisture. Works well as a border. A suggestion is to divide every 4 years, but this is a general suggestion. Greg Grant wrote narcissus are a signal of a New Year's arrival. The best types of narcissus for naturalizing are the early blooming hybrids. These varieties bloom January through March. It's extremely critical for them to return year after year, that the foliage be allowed to grow, mature, and ripen naturally. It should never be cut off or mowed down, as each year's foliage helps the bulb store food for the next year's bloom. Or they can be grown indoors. They will grow happily in a vase with pebbles and stones and water. Here's the flowers. Fall shamrocks. Purple shamrocks plant is a rhizomatous herbaceous perennial or houseplant. The trifoliate leaves resemble shamrocks and can be green to variegated, deep or maroon in color. The leaves close up at night when disturbed. The 1-inch white to pink 5-petaled flowers bloom in clusters in spring and summer on stems held above the plant and also close at night. The plants will grow in a mound habit 1 to 2 feet tall and wide, in full sun to partial shade. If grown as a houseplant, use a loamy potting mix with good drainage and allow the surface to dry between waterings. The plant may go dormant for a while in fall or if it gets too hot and dry. Annuals. Some annuals can reseed and return next season. Many times, big pieces of fresh mulch applied before seeds fall or removing spent flowers can prevent them from reseeding. If seeds are allowed to lie on bare ground, the seeds will germinate. Bluebonnets. Lots of sandy, well-draining soil. Plant in fall for spring blooms. The success of growing bluebonnets lies in the seed. Cool weather is needed to develop the bluebonnet roots structure. Plant seeds in September or October. Scarification is recommended to ensure a seed germination. These plants are very drought tolerant. Pentas are heat tolerant, pest resistant, low maintenance tropical annual blooming from spring through late fall. Excellent for mass plantings in containers. Full sun to partial shade. This variety reaches 24 inches to 24 inches wide. Needs well-drained soil, mulching, and summer irrigation. The butterfly penta became a Texas star many years ago. Since then, varieties like Graffiti and Lucky Star are more compact have been added. Fall zinnias. These are zinnias that have been selected as Texas superstars. They are listed as fall zinnias because they do best when planted in late summer. Sahara and Profusion are both smaller flowered bush plants with a wide range of colors. The series grows about 12 inches tall and wide. Sahara has a slightly larger 2.5-inch bloom, but both varieties are mildew and disease resistant and have self-cleaning blooms. Excuse me. Profusion and Sahara zinnias make a showy border that give you great color until frost. Zinnia elegans. This is the common zinnia. You need to deadhead them to continue flowering. They are susceptible to powdery mildew and spider mites when planted in the spring, but when planted in late summer, they have less issues. Never knew that. Cosmos. Cosmos are half-hardy annuals that grow flower, seed, set seed, and die all in 1 year. But unlike hardy annuals, they can't withstand low temperatures. They are all native to North America. These annuals will reseed easily on bare ground and small pieces of mulch. Cosmos sulphureus, the orange ones are the sulphureus. Mature plants reach 4 feet tall. The blooms are orange and yellow. Cosmos bipennatus, the pink ones, are annuals with larger blooms and can reach 1 to 4 feet tall and spread 2 to 3 feet wide. Chocolate cosmos are tuberous perennials. They are my good friend Joyce's favorite. Indian blanket flower. A hardy, drought-tolerant perennial found throughout much of the United States. Easily established from seed, it frequently forms dense colonies of brilliant red flowers with yellow rims. It can reach 8 to 24 inches tall in full sun with well-drained soils. Occasional watering will extend the May to September blooming period. Best practices for seed collecting allow the seed heads to completely dry prior to trimming. Sunflowers, my favorite, for many reasons. Many colors, bicolor, single, stalked, or even branching varieties. Mammoth varieties get 12 feet tall and the blooms are 12 inches wide. Also, there are pollen-free varieties. Mammoth is not one. The benefits for a non-pollen variety make for a less messy tablecloth when used as cut flowers. The non-pollen varieties still attract butterflies and produce seeds. The teddy bear is a multi-branching, reaches 3 feet tall with golden blooms, and the Mexican sunflower, Tithonia ramifolia, gets 4 to 6 feet tall, spreading 2 to 3 feet wide. Sunflowers can also be used as trap crops. Coravenca is heat and humidity tolerant and deer resistant. They are available in a wide array of colors with either upright or trailing habits and flower throughout the summer. They prefer full sun but will tolerate semi-shade. They can get 14 to 18 inches tall. Vincas are annuals in our area. Plant them late spring or even to summer. They adapt to most of our soils. Coleus. Coleus are annuals in our area. There are part shade and full sun coleus. Be sure to check the label. They have medium water needs that can form 3-foot mounds. The flowers appear near the end of the cycle. Best practices for longer lasting plants: remove the blooms. Pinch the leaves for a bushier plant when they are young. And remove the blooms when they are older. If they are leggy, they are not receiving enough sun. If they are wilting, it's too much sun. And that is it. Do we have any questions?
All right, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope you have a good week.